As the season opener against Atlanta draws ever nearer, one question pressing heavy on the lips of Eagles fans everywhere is who's going to start at nickel cornerback and replace Patrick Robinson. At this point in the preseason, there appears to be two candidates. On one hand is Sidney Jones, the second-year corner who missed most of his rookie year due to an Achilles injury, and on the second there's a much shorter, compact nickel cornerback in Avonte Maddox, who was drafted in the 4th round of this year's draft. By this point, both have seen plenty of exposure to first team and second team offenses, but who's really standing out with just 2 preseason games left to decide such an important role in Jim Schwartz's defense? Let's take a look at the film and see who's standing out as week 3 looms large upon us. We're going to start off breaking down the tape of Sidney Jones, who, although didn't start inside, did see plenty of time in the nickel. And what stood out to me during his snaps there was his positioning during zonal coverage. He was very light on his feet, fluid in his hips, and this made it very difficult for Tom Brady to get a ball anywhere in his vicinity, and we're going to take a look as to why. So we can see Jones here lining up inside the nickel. You're going to have a running back coming out of the backfield on a flat and another receiver running a dig route. There's a lot to comprehend for Jones here, who stays light on his feet, keeps his eyes fixed in the backfield, then closes down on the check down knowing he's got a corner outside. That's great instinctive play, and he showed those same positive traits throughout the game. Here, for instance, we see him open those hips. His eyes were still fixed on the backfield. It's a zonal assignment. He knows he has help over the top. He made that throw just a little bit more difficult. On this play, we'll circle him here, again lining up in the nickel, but look at those feet. He's always moving. He's not flat-footed. He's keeping his eyes fixed on the quarterback, locating the ball. He's not playing the player. He's looking for the ball, and that is such a big mistake that many corners make, and something Jalen Mills suffered heavily with during his first year in the NFL. But of course, we have to talk about his matchup with Cordarrelle Patterson and the whiff tackle which stands out from this game. And it simply comes down to Jones playing a bit too fast on the click and close and a very dirty move by Patterson. I mean, this is filth. Like, that body shape is utterly ridiculous, and it's great instincts from the receiver, but it's just a case of the cornerback going all in. It's an easy mistake to make. You can't really allow that to happen in the NFL, and unfortunately, it wasn't the only time. Here we see Jones actually miss a tackle on a running back coming out of the backfield, and that does allow him to pick up a huge first down and keep those chains moving. We talk about cornerbacks going all in on their play. This is a fine example of when it works out perfectly. Jones again lining up against Patterson. Look at the click and close on that. The burst of speed, the way he's able to transition that weight from his back foot forward and break up that pass is remarkable. And it's something that the Eagles have had to thrive on now that they're playing off coverage on so many different occasions. That's a brilliant play, and one that will certainly stand out to Jim Schwartz and Corey Undlin in the following days. But that wasn't the only time Jones got one over on Patterson. On this deep shot from Hoyer, Jones breaks it up beautifully, and it all starts with the technique and the maturity in his press coverage, and this only comes from learning from the corners on the Eagles roster that year away. A smooth back pedal, he opens his hips, begins to pace himself with the receiver, a brief little bump, and then turns his head at the exact same time. From that moment on, he's playing the ball, he's locating the ball, he knows where that receiver's going to be because of the ball's location, and again, that's such a hard thing to do. It's where Jalen Mills struggled with so much in his career, having his back to the ball. You can't make plays if you don't know where it is, and Jones has mastered that just as he did at Washington. Avonte Maddox, on the other hand, brought some very different qualities to the table, like for instance getting into the backfield. He didn't make a play there, but he had 4 sacks during his final season at college, which says a lot about his skill set. The man is a hard hitter, he's very physical, and even there he sees that pass into the flat from out of nowhere, breaks onto the ball and makes a big hit. He's 5'9", he's not as athletic as Sidney Jones, but he hits like a train, and even on this touchdown reception that Chris Hogan got on him, it's not like he gave up. He tried to plaster himself all over that wide receiver, and you can see him there, he's all in, but Hogan just shakes him off and is able to bring that touchdown pass in. When we take a look at that play in particular, the one thing that does stand out is that Maddox was very flat-footed, whereas Jones is a lot lighter. And by that point, when he's draped over his back like a Byron Maxwell impersonator, it was only going to end badly. It's something you learn, but as a shorter cornerback, is going to be exploited by the signal callers, and unfortunately for Avonte Maddox, Maddox. Hogan is a little bit taller, a little bit stockier, and has just got more experience knowing how to win those situations. But again, Maddox wasn't all bad. Here we can see him out of the slot, grinding on Eric Decker and slamming that ball out of harm's way. The way he's able to fight through that route. Eric Decker is 6'3". He's 4 inches taller than Avonte Maddox. But the way he initiates contact, and he's fighting him off, he's trying to push him off the stem of the route, and then use his body to knock the ball free. It's an overwhelming positive for Avonte Maddox. Working out to the slot here again, watch his feet off the line of scrimmage. He stays planted for quite some time. He lets the receiver run at him before adjusting to the route, and this does give a slight bit of leverage. It wasn't too visible here. He had safety help over the top, but Maddox is just a little late off the line. He likes to be the one that presses, that gives that punch. But if you're going to sit there, let someone like Eric Decker come at you, it normally is going to give the advantage to the bigger wideout. So it'll be interesting to see whether that will get coached out by Corey Underlin. But overall, it's very difficult to find anything overwhelmingly negative for any of these two players. The last shot I did want to show you was a situation where both corners are pressing at the line of scrimmage and how their technique differs. Now, Maddox and Jones do play this situation a little bit differently. Now, look at Sidney Jones. He jumps off the line a bit sooner, and look at the hips. He's a lot more open to movement, whereas Maddox is just a little bit more rigid in his movement. Jones seems a lot more flexible, his head's a lot more open, his body just seems a lot more free range, whereas Maddox keeps himself to himself and then unloads all that energy. So two contrasting styles of play there, and that's reflected in the types of cornerback they are. Sidney Jones is a ball hawk. Avonte Maddox is someone that will come in and clean up. He's very much like a secondary linebacker. And this brings me to a very different solution. I think that instead of having one designated starting nickel corner, why not go with two? Why not have Sidney Jones in man situations where you need a ball hawk, where you've got a slot receiver who can absolutely ruin a defense that we've seen time and time again become a dominant threat in the NFL. Then when you're defending run situations and you need the extra man, you've got hybrid linebackers like Nate Jerry, and you've got someone like Avonte Maddox who can come in and clean up. He's a lot more burstful, he's more consistent in his tackling, his technique's a lot more compact, and you've got a nice balance there, an equilibrium between them. And if I'm Jim Schwartz, that's the way I'm looking, because there are two very different cornerbacks with two different skill sets. So that would be the way I'd do it. I would love to hear what you guys think. If you're new around here, please hit that subscribe button. I can't believe the Jordan Mailata video had 25,000 views. That blows my mind. If we can get this video to 500 likes, the last one somehow hit 500, let's do it again, guys. 500 likes. We'll get another film room out in a couple of days. From myself, Liam Jenkins, we'll see you next time for another episode of Eagles Film Room.